From atop the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show across our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR, Newswire, and much more. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, the show at Spaced Out Radio, and my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Ghosts of the Great White North is a monthly feature here on Spaced Out Radio where we bring in the man known as Merle from Haunted Crew of Canada. Yes, he is a man of haunted mystery as we take a look at some of the unknown hauntings coming out of Canada. We are also joined by special guests tonight, folklorist and author Shanon Sinn, a former member of the Canadian Armed Forces, a veteran, a fantastic writer when it comes to the paranormal and legends on Vancouver, British Columbia. And you know, everyone, we love our veterans around here. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Ghosts of the Great White North. We introduce Merle right off the bat here. Merle, how you been doing, man?
I've been doing great, Dave. It's beautiful. My toilet paper is stocked. Running low on hand sanitizer. Other than that, I'm doing well. How about you?
I am doing fantastic. You know, this is nothing new for me. I mean, you're one of my best friends. You've been up to my house and SOR headquarters here numerous times. You know what it's like being in the middle of nowhere and not having to go anywhere. That's the beautiful part about it, man. I don't need to go anywhere. It's a fantastic thing.
You live the quarantine life. It's good.
I totally do. I totally live the quarantine life. And now that the snow is starting to melt, I'm even happier. Even happier. Well, good to have you here with us, my friend. And we're going to get into some paranormal stories with you, along with our special guest tonight. He is an author. He's a folklorist. He is a veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces. And I'm going to be honest, he has a fantastic beard as well. Fantastic beard. And you know we like a good beard around here. Shanon Sinn is back. His website is livinglibraryblog.com/Shanon-Sinn. And we're glad to have him here as well. Shanon, how you been doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you, Dave?
I am fantastic. How's the beard going? We need a beard update.
Well, it gets longer and more unkempt, and then I trim it and make it look more presentable, and then it grows out again. So it's just an endless cycle, I find.
Well, you know what? I also want to say on behalf of Spaced Out Radio, you know that every time I chat with you, I say thank you for serving our wonderful country here and serving for the freedoms of everybody in North America. It takes a real strong person to be able to do something like that. And you and your service, I just want to say a big thank you to you and your compatriots for serving in the Canadian Armed Forces and of all of our American veterans who listen to this show as well, because without you, who knows where we would be on this planet. So thank you for putting in the time that so many don't.
I appreciate it. Thank you for saying that.
Not a problem, my friend. Not a problem at all. Merle, let's start off with you here, because you have recently, over the last month since we had you on this show, you've been on Paranormal Investigation, hanging on out and doing your thing that you do, playing with the ghosts out there. How was your last investigation?
My last investigation was good. We captured a lot of audio evidence. People who investigate know that you don't hear it when you're doing the investigation. But I'm about to pop up another video onto YouTube in the next week. We were doing an investigation on Indigenous land. This lady was saying that she could feel a man outside of her house, not a real man, like a ghost man, peering into her, trying to get into her house. It got so bad to the point where she would block the doors with wedges, so people from the outside can't come in even if they tried. One of the EVPs we got is a demonic. It's not a demon. It just has that demonic classic demonic sounding voice of Cherokee. So I've been in contact with our client wondering what that means, and it comes full circle because she's part Cherokee native. So that's, and it's so clear, Dave. I'll send you the EVP later to listen to. I wish your listeners could hear it, but it's probably one of the best Class A's I've ever gotten. Class A EVPs.
I got to ask you, when it comes to EVPs, how do we know that it's actually a ghost of a voice, my friend? Or the voice of a ghost, I should say.
The voice of a ghost. You've been out with me before. We have our electronic recorders, digital recorders, and you can't hear anything. We basically look like we're talking to the air, right? So on these digital recorders, it's not like an old tape. You know, when you had an old tape, you'd record stuff on the radio to listen to in your car, and then you'd get sick of that, then you'd re-record on it and re-record on it again, and you'd hear the faint songs from your previous recording all the time.
Yes.
Yes. So with digital recorders, that doesn't happen. When you delete it, it's gone. It's a brand new file. So what happens is they say spirits communicate on a different level. And for whatever reasons, our audio recorders capture them. And that's usually the best evidence I've ever gotten with investigating.
Yeah. And Shannon, for you, how did you get into the whole folklore legends field? Was this something that interested you, or was it an experience that kind of brought you down that road?
Well, I've had personal experiences, I guess, throughout my life as long back as I can remember, even as a kid, but like not often, like very spaced apart. And even today, like I'm very skeptical. Like it's hard for me to accept any of this as being real. So I kind of ended up leaning more towards the story aspect as opposed to, I guess, the paranormal investigative type work that like Merle is doing. So I like to record the stories like and categorize them as urban type legends and give people a voice that way to their own experiences.
Right. So with that, with giving the people the voice to their experiences, how do you go about that? Because when you're dealing with words, like you being a writer, you really have to learn how to paint a picture with your words.
Yeah, this is something that I come up against quite a bit, is having to word things very carefully. For example, if there's, let's say, a house that people are walking by and they see what they think is an apparition in the upper window, and that's happened to them twice. It's very important for me to mention that it's happened to these people twice, because generally what happens is when people go in to investigate, or when tours become involved, or any sort of books or media or whatever, it gets sensationalized. And words such as many sightings, or it'll be implied that pretty much people could walk by there every single night and see this. And that's kind of how the stories get kind of bastardized, which I find, the way that I see it, it takes away from the story and the lore if people are intentionally making it sensational. And then it also makes the original experience less valid. So to me, it's almost it's very important to watch every word that I use when I'm writing it, and try not to lean more towards making it seem like it's happening more often than it is.
Now, for you being a healthy skeptic, Shannon, and, then there's somebody like Merle who's very skeptical as well, and then there's me who literally fires up the woo train anytime I possibly can. When you hear about these experiences, Shanon, when you hear these personal accounts of what people are going through that are just unexplainable, how do you decipher what is a good story, what is real, or what is someone's imagination?
Well, I do have a few tricks, and one of them is when it's somebody that doesn't normally believe in anything, I tend to pause. Like, for example, in The Haunting of Vancouver Island, my book, there's a chapter on the Schooner Restaurant in Tofino. And these are the people that I interviewed there. They're all seasonal workers. So they're the type of workers that might be in Tofino for half of the season, which, if any of your listeners don't know, that's a surfing community on the west coast of Canada. And then for the other half of the season, they might be in a ski resort area like Whistler. They're not people that watch TV. They're not people that are really into new age things. They're just very down to earth. A lot of times there might be like a social component to their lifestyle. Some of them are surfers, skiers, and they just aren't the type of people that really believe in ghosts or anything like that. And when they were coming forward, they were all kind of like, well, I wouldn't believe this either. And some of these experiences, more than one of them had at the same time. For example, a crate of glasses they saw floating in the back room and then just dropped. And there was an incident where I think they said 3 or 4 people sitting around a table. The exact number would be in my book, but they saw a man sitting at another table, and this was after it was closed. They were just staff eating, and they all saw him, and then he just disappeared. And this is a place with, they say that it has 1 or 2 major incidents a season, and that's about it. But it's big enough that people are convinced a lot of times that might not normally be. So I tend to pay attention to people like that. Also, I have a lot of friends that are First Nations, and because ghost stories and ancestor type stories, spirits are part of their belief, their traditional belief system, a lot of times, they don't have the same sort of doubt, and it isn't kind of a hobby type thing, and it isn't something that is strange to them either. So it's very matter of fact, even though it seems like maybe it's on the other side of the spectrum. So I guess I'm more wary when somebody's very into the paranormal or ghosts or things like that. They play with Ouija boards, they watch all the shows. And that doesn't mean that their stories aren't valid, because there's a lot of ideas like the tulpa that you could be creating things, you could be attracting things. It just means that I would rather sometimes speak with somebody who that wasn't necessarily a part of their everyday life. And when it is kind of more matter of fact like that too, it does seem to become more like I said, something that interests me, like an urban legend, as opposed to people that are interested in every story. It might be someone that doesn't believe in anything except for this one story they're a part of. So that kind of fascinates me as well.
Merle, you're from the Lower Mainland of British Columbia. For people who don't know, that's just outside of Vancouver. And Shanon is on Vancouver Island. I know you have investigated some paranormal on Vancouver Island, Merle. How haunted is the west coast of British Columbia? This is where Merle forgets to hit his mute.
There we go. Is that better?
That usually helps a little bit better.
Before I answer that, I totally agree with Shanon on how to, I read people versus take them on their word a lot of times, with the whole stories and being matter of fact when dealing with new clients. As for Victoria, Vancouver Island being extremely haunted, I've done an investigation at the Langham Court Theatre in Victoria, which is, I think, Canada's second oldest show theater when were they built first? 1888. That was one of the most haunted places I've ever investigated. Right now, they use it as, like I said, a show theater, not like a movie theater. And they have a lot of surplus military uniforms there, like from World War One, World War Two. And when we were upstairs doing an audio session, EVP session, one of the arms of the uniforms, don't want to say grabbed at us, but we saw the arm of the uniform go up towards us and back. And it's pretty startling.
So when it comes to Vancouver Island, Mike, what's the difference between, say, investigating on the mainland comparatively to Vancouver Island?
For me, Vancouver Island is pretty unexplored. I've only done a few locations. I've done, Shannon, what's the name of the big old graveyard in Victoria?
You're probably talking about Ross Bay Cemetery.
Yeah, I've done Ross Bay Cemetery, and I've done just the theater there. The island is a place I'd really like to get over to and investigate. I've heard of that place he was talking about in Tofino, with all the different paranormal encounters. Yes. That's one I'd like to there. Have you? Wow. I'd really like to check that one out. But I am inexperienced with Vancouver Island for ghost hunts, but it's been on my doctorate this year. We'll see if we get out there with this whole COVID thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when it comes to, the way hauntings are taken, now we have kind of an interesting match here because Mike, aka Merle, is not a writer. He's an investigator. Shanon, on the other hand, is not an investigator, but he is an author. So when you look at the way both of you guys are coming at paranormal type stories, is there a way to blend both two? And Shanon, I'm going to start with you on this one. Blend the investigative part with the storytelling and the folklore that you so beautifully write about.
I think that there definitely is. With a friend of mine, we did 2 investigations that are chapters of my book. One for the Harry Bay Inn and the other was for the schooner, just to kind of try on, I guess, that hat. I just don't really know how to go about it. Maybe I don't have the right kind of temperament or patience for it myself, just because it, like a lot of places, like the schooner, for example, again, they'll only have like a couple of big incidents a year. So unless you're investigating a place that's really haunted, like that Merle's talking about, like the theater, it's hard for me to see like how people aren't wasting their time. And I think because of that, a lot of different groups, they're almost competitive, at least some of the ones that I've encountered with each other, and they all kind of seem to be almost one-upping each other as far as the evidence that they've got, and some of it seems really like a stretch, and then I even like I don't really know how to say this without possibly offending anybody, but
say it just go with it. Say it.
When the psychics are brought in, that really, to me, it's like I don't mean to diss psychics or anything, but what's happened a lot of times in Vancouver Island that I've come across as a researcher, because I like to research the backstory, the historical story, is that the actual history has been kind of morphed to fit or suit what the psychic has said about the haunting. And so that there's a whole bunch of problems there. And like I said earlier, if there is such a thing as the tulpa concept, where if you start to believe in something, it starts to become real, then maybe there is, maybe it's not all being made up, but I don't know how to pick that apart or how to look at that without, when I'm writing the story, without becoming even more skeptical about what people are telling me. So a lot of times when there are investigative groups involved, it kind of makes me take another step back. It's refreshing to hear that Merle is also skeptical, because that isn't necessarily, like a lot of the groups, they say that they're skeptical, and there's always a skeptical member kind of like modeled on the TV shows. But when it comes down to it, are they really that skeptical if they're not checking the historical accuracy of the place. And like if they're saying that there's a murder that happened there, for example, you can investigate that. You can find out, like, even from first contact, people are keeping track of that sort of thing, and oral history before that. So it's just kind of, it's mind baffling to me, some of what's going on.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, Shannon, if you keep talking logic like that, this is a show about the woo, man. And if you keep talking logic right, that, we're not going to have a show here. We're not going to have a show, my friend.
Well, I have to disagree with you, because the way that I see it is, when you are as skeptical as possible, that's when you have the real proof in front of you that there are things happening. And it's when people are kind of forcing things to look haunted or exaggerating, that it actually takes away from these actual experiences that people are having, in my opinion anyways.
Fully agree with you. And please don't mind the sarcasm on my part a little bit here, because, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. And Merle, I'm sure you would agree. I mean, you literally... Yeah. Oh, we know that Merle agrees with that. But, there are people out there who, I mean, we also have to realize, with all of these different groups that are popping up left, right, and center, it doesn't matter where they are or where they come from. There is always the people out there that what they say and what they do are two different things. And that has been a real thorn in the side of I believe, the paranormal community for a long, long time. And that is why, many people do not associate with the paranormal groups anymore. They go off and do their own things because they don't want that type of drama or that type of influence hanging around what they want to do and what they are set to accomplish. Merle, we got about 45 seconds.
Okay, you know what the biggest trigger word to a lot of those groups is when you say the word why. Meaning you question their evidence, you question why they made their decisions on evidence. You've seen it with other groups around. They'll say that there's nothing here because there was a pipe that made a sound. And then they'll get old Dave Scott going, well, why? Or how do you know? And then you see their head blow up inside.
I'm sure you put it all on me. You put it all on me for being the jerk. I appreciate that.
We both do it.
Yeah. No, I know we do. But I mean, that's you're exactly right. And gentlemen, I'm going to get you both to hold on here, because we're going to continue this awesome paranormal talk tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got Merle, from Ghosts of the Great White North and Haunted Crew of Canada, as well as we have very talented writer Shanon Sinn. His website, livinglibraryblog.com/Shanon/ or make that -Sin. So make sure you check it out, because he's pretty awesome. Fantastic beard as well, everyone. More Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters, welcoming each and every one of your listening ears into our audience. Thank you so much. I want to remind all of you that if you want to take a listen to our archives, guess what? We have them free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rockin' Out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, along with my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. I'd greatly appreciate that. Goes to the Great White North. It happens once a month here on Spaced Out Radio, where we bring in Merle from Haunted Crew of Canada. And tonight our special guest is Vancouver Island author, folklorist Shanon Sinn. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
Glad to be here.
Your enthusiasm is always appreciated, Merle. Always appreciated.
Yeah, two of us like that tonight.
Well, we got two great guys as our guests tonight on the show, and, you know, we really appreciate what all of you are doing for the paranormal community. And, you know, when it comes to Vancouver Island, in your parts, where you have lived, all the way from Tofino down to Victoria, Shanon, you know, what makes Vancouver Island so special, both as a living place and as someone who kind of delves into the strange and weird?
Well, the size of Vancouver Island is pretty impressive, and the climate is warm compared to most places in Canada, which means the trees are really big, and we have the wild west coast where you could surf if you enjoy that, and there's a lot of clean water, clean air, a lot of wildlife still, including wolves, cougars, bears. We got orca, aka killer whales, all sorts of other types of whales around. It's just such a intensely live place. Although there is like the dark side to that is when you come across like a lot of the clear cuts or whatever. And it's quite big. So each community kind of has its own vibe or feel to it. Like you're in completely different worlds. Like you just mentioned, Victoria, Tofino, Nanaimo, even though they're only a couple of hours apart from each other, like it's about an hour, 45 minutes from Victoria to Nanaimo, and then a few hours to Tofino. You're just in completely different zones. And everything, maybe because there's rainforest and there is so much ocean and life around, everything kind of has like this real high energy feel to it. So when it comes to the paranormal side of things, if you want to use that term, I like Vancouver Island because it's contained, it's surrounded by a body of water. So it is big enough that I have all these different cases that I could explore almost. It makes like a study group or a group that I could study, compare and contrast quite easily, having its own fixed borders. And then also there's 3 First Nations groups here, main groups, with many smaller communities. And that's the Kwakwaka'wakw, Coast Salish, and the Nch'ulnth. And each of these groups, they're language groups, they have many stories as well that date back thousands of years. And a lot of their stories accept the supernatural, for lack of a better term, as part of real life, day-to-day life. And so that just puts another layer on a lot of the places around, meaning some places have rich histories, of having supernatural beings around, or of being sacred, or being ancestral places that or a person goes to speak with the dead. So a lot of the stories that have been told to me, I don't really have permission to retell. And so I was very lucky in my book to have been able to interview Chief James Swan of Ahousaht, who he lives in Victoria now as well. But I met him in the Army, and he shared a number of stories with me and allowed me to share them again. But it's just fascinating, a lot of the history, the oral history that exists on Vancouver Island, on top of the settler, to use that term, lore. So there's a real rich history there.
Being surrounded by the ocean and ocean waters, do you feel that brings up the vibration or the energy of the island for a lot of these strange and weird, stories that you hear?
Well, there is theories, I think, of humidity. Pretty much all over the world, there's tales of haunted coasts and lighthouses and ladies in white that are standing on rocky cliffs looking out at the ocean. But that being said, I've also been reading quite a bit lately about jinn, which exist in deserts, and it's a whole fascinating thing that really I think we need to learn more about, because there's a huge portion of the world that has this whole other fascinating belief system around ghosts and spirits and otherworldly beings that we kind of just ignore in the West. So a lot of people do promote this idea of water and ocean and places being more haunted, but I don't know if that's true. I think some places really brand themselves as being haunted when there's tourism involved. But what my experience has been is there's definitely more haunted spots and places with more stories. But as far as a whole region or a whole area, I think I suspect that all places are kind of equal, and maybe just the ocean areas are more populated and more people are more interested in them. Maybe that's why there's more stories that we're aware of.
Merle, what's your thoughts on what Shanon said?
I went to the island this past year, Vancouver Island, and it's funny that we're talking about this now, because I was just talking about it with a friend the other day. The vibe, you could use the word supernatural. That's our right, supernatural BC. But it's a lot. There's a lot more energy, a lot more vibrant. When you're driving from, I'll just say, Port Alberni, which is some fish town in the middle of the island, to Tofino, you can feel the energy change. When you're going, picture Australia, an Australian coast with all the sand and all of that. That's Tofino, and you wouldn't think a place like British Columbia has that. But I think with all the water, all the sand, the current, all that sort of stuff, I think it breeds energy to bring supernatural things there. I meditated when I was there. You feel kind of not alone when you're there, but in a good way. Would you agree, Shanon? Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I pretty much said something very similar to what you just said in the introduction of my book about you never feel alone in the woods or on the beach, and there's definitely something to that.
So when we look at the way the Vancouver Island is situated, we have ghosts, we have Bigfoot. We know there has been alien sightings and UFO sightings by the plenty around the island from top end to bottom. What exactly is going on Vancouver Island there, Shanon?
Well, it's hard to say if there's something necessarily going on. I think about a lot of these things as I collect the stories and stuff, but I do really like the the lore on Vancouver Island because we do have everything. We have a ghost ship. We have all the Sasquatch stories. We have the UFO stories. We have all types of ghosts. We have a headless ghost, a skull-faced bishop, a woman who walks on water, and then we have a whole ton of sea serpent and lake serpent lore as well. And then with the First Nation stuff, also there's other beings. So is it because we have these monster trees? I sometimes wonder about things like that because so many haunted places have these big, huge old trees. Or is that just kind of something that we just add to our stories? I don't know. But water, maybe. I just don't know. Like being a really skeptical person, like I wonder, like when people are having these experiences, are we making them happen somehow ourselves, like in a psychic sense, or are we attracting something, or is this some type of hallucination, or like interdimensional type things, which is what's been described to me for some of the First Nation stories. Or I don't know if it's necessarily like quote unquote ghosts, spirits of the dead, or something completely different. But I do believe that on a long enough timeline that science will be able to explain what it is, even if it is a spirit of the dead, because people do have these experiences. But I think it's just hard to study or to prove because it is so sporadic, and it's hard to get a control area or, a proper study, as far as like, how do you get this proof? And like, even if you do get the proof, how are you able to explain or prove to somebody else that it isn't contaminated or that you didn't somehow make it up yourself, right? So I don't know. I kind of just went on a tangent there. I'm sorry, Dave, but
no, go right ahead, man.
Yeah, I do think that there's a lot of activity on Vancouver Island that's being reported, and it's fascinating. But I also do think that there is a lot here that I'm very question pretty hard whether or not it's actually going on.
When you question things that are going on, okay, if you take Vancouver Island, you have sea serpents on the outside, the west side of Vancouver Island, along with the Cameron Lake monster, which to this day, I wish I would have known that when I lived on Vancouver Island and decided to go fishing waist deep into the lake. Because if I would have known there was a sea monster in there, I'm not going in. I am not going in at all. That thing could have killed me. And we wouldn't be here today. But nonetheless, there's a lot of strange cases. I mean, Vancouver Island was a violent place back in the day. There wasn't a lot of laws around, Shannon. And this is what claims for a lot of the hauntings are in these smaller logging, mining type communities.
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example is the Headless Woman of Mount Sicker. The legend there, the legend there is of a woman that was murdered and decapitated, and some of the stories talk about her being chopped up and spread out over the town site that was up there. So Mount Sicker used to have, at its height, 3 different town sites. It had a church, it had a theater, it had at least one hotel, it had some sort of cemetery. People see this woman, this headless woman. They've seen her on the logging road. They've seen her down towards, because now it's all grown back and the logging company knocked down the buildings and stuff. It's hard to even find exactly where it is with the gates and everything. Definitely something going on there. Definitely people seeing stuff. But I researched the hell out of it. There's never been a murder of a woman that I could find. And there was just way too much going on and way too many newspapers in the area for that not to be recorded. So the story has been kind of made up. I don't know, like maybe a woman died of some other event and then urban legends changed it over time if it is a spirit, or like I said before or implied before, maybe the story comes first and then the spirit somehow manifests itself as people believe in it. I don't really know. But that's a perfect example of the story not matching the history. And another one is Forbidden Plateau, which is a ski area that's in the Comox Courtney area. It's come out now that whole story was intentionally made up in the 60s and earlier by 1920s and 1930s, by Clinton Wood, and in the province and in the Comox Argus, and Ben Hughes, I think his name was, and then later they one of them or both of them confessed that they made it up for tourism purposes. But the whole area has all these stories now of cannibal spirits and people disappearing, and there's even like a First Nation story that white people tell of people, the First Nations, fleeing from raiders, and for whatever reason they went way up into the mountains, and one of the stories is that the raiders pursued them all the way up in the mountains and then killed all the women and children. And another story is that these cannibal type spirits got them. But either story, they were never found again. And the problem is, when you ask the First Nations people, they will tell you that story wasn't real, but nobody bothered to ask them. And then eventually one of these people who made it up confessed. But so Forbidden Plateau is completely made up. The name is still there. It's kind of a Strathcona Park area. But like that's another example of something that was just, it had no basis for truth at all. And people just passed the story back and forth. And there's a lot of cases of that in Victoria too, because of the tourism is so, I guess, like it's part of the economy. So how do this writer that wants to write folklore, how do I approach that without upsetting a whole bunch of people? I don't know.
Shanon Sinn and Merle are here for Ghosts of the Great White North on Spaced Out Radio. We have about 5.5 minutes before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Merle, when you hear those stories where the history is not matching with the experiences and the multiple experiences from multiple people that are having them, how, as a paranormal investigator, do you try and credit that as a true haunting?
That's kind of hard because, like, back in the old days, they didn't keep records nearly as good as we do now. There are probably a lot of off-the-book murders, a lot of off-the-book sketchiness, a lot of things like that probably happened. Interviewing the locals, interviewing older people that live around there, doing your own investigation with names that have been given. Like when we go in, say someone said Marty died at the Forbidden Plateau, this example. You would go in and do an investigation and try and communicate with Marty by using their name and kind of gauge your own opinion on if you think it's haunted or not based on experiences. But I like to dig by talking to locals. A lot of stuff isn't written on the books or on the internet. It's passed down through families and generations. But on the other hand of that, you get people that make stuff up too, like Shanon was just saying.
So when you are looking into that, Mike, and you are trying to find that truth, and you know that the history may not match what the history books say, or the hauntings may not match what the history books say, how do you go about on an investigative way to try and seek out that ghost or that spirit to communicate with them to see what their history is all about?
I use the information that was given to me. Say if they say Marty's haunting this location, I'm going to go try and find Marty and communicate with Marty. But that being said, I'm also going to look for main players from that era that have been deceased in history books and try and communicate with them and perhaps maybe get a message through them on whether or not certain aspects of history happen via audio recorders.
Shanon, there are a lot of strangeness happening on Vancouver Island, and the fact that, if you get into gnomes, if you get into little people, if you get into the sea monsters, there's for every type of character that is there or creature that is there, you also have weird stories like Granger Taylor in the Duncan area, who disappeared 40 years ago claiming he was going to be abducted by aliens, and now his death was ruled a suicide. But there are still a lot of people who don't buy that either. Is it the culture of Vancouver Island different from compared to other parts of Canada where you have lived or places you have traveled?
Well, like I said earlier, I think that each community is kind of different. Like if you go on in like maybe some of the Gulf Islands, you've got a lot more people that believe maybe in like nature religions and are more likely to believe in spirits. If you go into First Nations communities, like I said earlier, spirits are more matter of fact. If you go somewhere like Campbell River, it's just not as easy to find a ghost story as, here you've got a traditional logging, fishing type community, very like more working class. It's just not the same sort of vibe. So each community has its kind of own, I guess, views, or whether or not they lean towards the paranormal collectively or not. But that being said, most communities still have their few places that are really considered haunted, and those are the ones that interest me as somebody that collects stories, especially when something I never mentioned earlier too that I meant to is a lot of times I stop and kind of like really kind of like think harder about stuff that like stories that don't make sense or that sound very unusual. Like for example, the woman that walks on water. There's a whole urban legend around her. This is in Port Alberni, very park right beside. It's the Sumas River right beside. If you're driving to Tofino, it's like a short turn off. People have seen her even recently, all the way back almost 100 years, or I think over 70 years. That was able to trace the stories. When I was researching, I found that there used to be a wooden platform there in this pulp mill over the water. So to me, that was really interesting that people used to actually walk on top of the water there. And now people say that they see this apparition that's walking on the water when there's no like wood platform there anymore. So that to me was a really interesting case for that reason. And the people in Port Alberni I wouldn't necessarily say that they're hardcore like new age type community. It's another working class community mostly. It just depends from place to place. I'd say that there's definitely, no matter where you go, there's kind of like an older, maybe hippie-ish element around, but there's also a lot of people that would, you bring up the topic and they're probably not going to be believers at all.
True. I'm going to get you gentlemen to hold on there. Quick Port Alberni story. Port Alberni, British Columbia. I coached Junior B hockey there. My final game coaching, I was suspended for 6 games because I fought the opposing team's coach behind the benches after a line brawl broke out on the ice. How Canadian is that? How Canadian is that? As we prepare for hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio with Ghosts of the Great White North, Merle and Shanon Sinn joining us tonight. We'll be back.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent, and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there. The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefoot?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. the burning Bumble tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at Kajans.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America. On the digital side, we're on TalkStream Live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and Revolution Radio. Don't forget, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Xenogenesis. Xenogenesis is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, #SpacedOutRadio during the show. You can also follow us at Spaced Out Radio or my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. Once a month, we bring in Merle from Haunted Crew of Canada for Ghosts of the Great White North, where we hang out and talk about paranormal stories all across Canada and the United States. And tonight we are joined by author Shanon Sinn. The Haunting of Vancouver Island, Supernatural Encounters with the Other Side is his book. And I'll tell you, it's a great, great book. It's available in stores and online as well. Gentlemen, welcome back. Merle, you got a question for Shanon.
I do. I want to talk about the difference between folklore and an urban legend and how they differ.
Is that the question?
That is the question. What is the difference between folklore and an urban legend?
Urban legend is a type of folklore. So folklore is pretty actually all-encompassing, and it could include everything from jokes to there's clothing, there's food, there's dance, there's songs. But a lot of people gravitate towards the mythical type folklore, and that's kind of the folklore that's known the best. The term urban legend it's not entirely agreed upon what its exact definition is by everybody. Like, there's some academics that have put forth a very specific definition, and other academics have made it a little bit different. So I don't want to delve into that too deeply, other than just my understanding. And I don't have, my degree isn't as a folklorist or anything. I'm a writer. But my understanding is an urban legend doesn't have to be urban. Obviously, it can be also, or it could also be rural. but it's a contemporary type of legend that's believed by a group of people. And in many cases, there's widespread ones as well, like the rise of a story like Slender Man or Black-Eyed Children. Some people would say a lot of the UFO stories are urban legends. Bloody Mary, for example, would be an urban legend. But there would be specific ones as well. So like when I mentioned the lady that walks on water in Port Alberni, that would be an urban legend for that city or that area that might not be expand beyond that, although there are very similar stories to that one, because I didn't mention when I brought it up that she also is said, part of the legend is that she says, "Where is my baby?" which is there's Latin American stories in the southern states and in Mexico that are very similar as well. So I don't know, did that answer your question?
It did. Can you give examples of common folklore that happened like on the island?
Well, I guess common folklore. I'm quite interested, for example, in I guess like Dave mentioned earlier, like little people stories. But most of the little people stories that I've heard or come across are First Nations traditional stories. I would like to record more about. It'd be nice, anyways, to try to find out some jinn stories here, because we do have a Muslim and East Indian population on Vancouver Island. Those stories have to exist, even if they're in pockets. Something that never gets talked about, like very, very rarely, are the urban legends and the legends that are attached to true crime. For example, having lived for a number of years in Nanaimo, there's a lot of legends and stories about the Hells Angels. So, like, how do you go about approaching those types of stories and recording them without it being slander, without it delving into maybe actual crimes, and maybe some of them are true? I don't know. But like, there's a lot of stories that are that I would guess are completely fabricated or made up, that and I'm sure it's the same with you hear stories of like gangs everywhere and organized crime and different things like that. I think those are very interesting examples of folklore that don't often get talked about. And one of my real passions or loves is, as I've probably mentioned a few times now, is First Nations ghost stories, because because they're. I'm interested in the similarities to Western ghost stories, but also some of the differences. Like in the spirit world, when you start reading like the old accounts, like pre-1930s and stuff, like in the spirit world, that's like a parallel world to ours, especially I'm talking specifically about Coast Salish right now, where everything is backwards. So people, instead of walking forward, they walk to the side. If it's night here, it's day there, and vice versa. Like everything's kind of opposite. So I think that's really, those are interesting stories too.
Merle, I have a question for you from Mark in our chat room, and he is asking, because you have investigated both in Canada and the United States, and he is asking, is there a difference that you have found between hauntings in the United States and hauntings in Canada?
Accents, mainly. No, I'm kidding. No, not really. I find the States is a lot older than Canada, population-wise, in certain areas, and you might be able to dive into history a little more, but no, it's pretty similar. You're talking to a dead person on our side of the border, on your side of the border. I haven't found any difference, really.
All right, let's continue on here. Getting to the legends and the folklore that continue to haunt Vancouver Island. You know, Vancouver Island is also, Shannon, known for its very awesomely eclectic people. Are those the type of people, the spiritualist type people that live on Vancouver Island? Do they bring the energy up or promote those stories and those legends to the point where maybe, like you said, there is some sort of tulpa type activity that creates these legends into real creatures?
That's an interesting question. I would say when I first came to Vancouver Island, because I originally grew up in northern Saskatchewan, when I first came to Vancouver Island in the mid-90s, there was definitely more of a hippie new age vibe. And I would say that I don't really see that to the same extent anymore. You will find pockets of people who are kind of new age or kind of lean that way that are older, like baby boomers and older. But for the most part, I'm finding, like I said, every community is different. It kind of has its different vibes. But I think as we become more and more global, as more and more people are online and tapped into Netflix or wherever they get their entertainment, I think they're kind of what Merle said too. Like, I think we're kind of having more and more similar ideas of things as we kind of move forward.
Mm-hmm. Merle, what do you think?
I agree with what he's saying with there. Totally agree with that.
Power comment there, Merle. Power comment. We love it. We love it. Anyways, gentlemen, you know, let's focus in on the little people, because this is a story that seems to intrigue you. And for many First Nations areas across North America, from the Cherokee in the United States to all traditional bands in Canada and around the west coast of the United States as well, there are reports of these little people standing anywhere between 12 and 18 inches high. They apparently are tricksters. How prevalent are these rumors or these stories from First Nations on Vancouver Island?
I would say that the stories are there. They've been mentioned in different interviews and in papers and such. They are not spoken of that much, and like the times that I've been told about them, I've pretty much been told that I can't use it or I can't retell the stories. But there's definitely, I'd say, the stories are a lot more public where I'm from in Saskatchewan. There's a lot more, people are a lot more open. The Cree people that I grew up with and such, I know that they've published stories online. A lot of people have, and people have interviewed people or different elders and stuff about it. So I would say that it's an interesting. It's interesting to me because, like, when people say, like, kind of a trigger for me when I'm like trying to record stories or when I get into First Nations traditional stories, is when people say something like Native Americans believed or First Nations believed, and they're including hundreds of different nations as basically all having had these similar beliefs or experiences, instead of there being distinct cultures and huge differences, from Florida to Haida Gwaii, Alaska to California, like everywhere people have different cultures and different stories. But it's fascinating. The little people component is fascinating because it does exist all over North America that I'm aware of. I've found many examples of it. But that being said, it's also found in most other cultures that I'm aware of too. So why that is, I don't know. One thing that interests me is there's a crossover to ghost lore in Ireland and little people, because before the fairy lore became prevalent, like the writer Catherine Briggs back in the day said that the term fairy was basically used to label ghosts and other discarnate beings, and but eventually became its own thing with the different color fairy books, like the Violet fairy book and such, and then Disney, of course. But you go back and there's this idea that as people believed less in the spirit, or as the spirit lost more and more of its essence, that it became smaller. And then, I mean, some places that might explain why a ghost is transparent too, or hard to see, if you look at it that way. And there is a crossover to First Nations too, where it's kind of, the line's kind of blurry whether or not they're other beings, or whether or not at times that they are perhaps ghosts, like diminished spirits that are fading over time.
I've never heard that they might be diminished spirits. That one's new to me. I do know that the First Nations people that I have talked to in regards to the little people, they don't trust them. They fear them because they are tricksters, and if you don't show them respect or show them the attitude that you're going to pay attention to who they are, what they're doing, that these little beings can cause a lot of havoc for communities.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a huge overlap to Western lore too, when you get into like location spirits. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but some people would say household spirits, but they also exist outside of the house and home. So again, there's an overlap whether or not they are these other beings, these trickster beings, or whether or not they're ancestors. And the trickster component is usually when something isn't respected, or they're not left gifts. And then you take that a step further and you look at contemporary hauntings. A lot of times the story starts right after renovation or something like that. So it makes one kind of sit back and think about it. But there was, like, even going back to like Rome, Greece, when they used to leave gifts for the ancestors, food. It still happens in a lot of places, like if you look at like India, for example, where you leave offerings for the spirits and such, and you're expected, if you don't, then they'll play tricks on you, or they'll make things happen negative in and around your home. And that could be not necessarily just a home either. It could be any sort of place. A perfect example of a widespread belief of that would be the theater and the ghost light that's left on a stage, that some people say is left on to appease the spirit, others that it scares them, and others that it kind of allows them to perform. And if the spirits aren't allowed to perform, then they will do basically chaos, or cause failings in the actual performance, or to the actors or whatever. So I think that especially if you look how the history's evolved, the little people lore and Western, I guess, stories, from ghosts to what we have now, I think that there's a huge overlap, whether or not they are the same type of being that we've just have different terminology for now. But that being said, in a traditional First Nation sense, they're definitely different beings in some stories, just like the Sasquatch or other type of spirit beings.
What is the difference between the little people and the legends of the little people comparatively to other creatures that are seen and reported on Vancouver Island, whether it's fairies, whether it's gnomes or wood nymphs protecting the forest? Where do you go with that?
Well, I hate to even categorize the three First Nations groups here together, even when they have such similar beliefs for some things. But when it comes to the forests, there's definitely a belief prevalent all across Vancouver Island that the forests are filled with different types of spirits, and people would sometimes go and consort with spirits to gain power or to gain special gifts, or knowledge. A really fascinating book. One of my favorite books is a book that was interviews with elders in the 1930s. It's called Two Houses Half Buried in Sand, and it was compiled by Chris Arnett. It was originally Beryl Cryer, I think her name was, interviewed elders for the Colonist back in the day. And a lot of the stories, this is, before the residential schools erased a lot of these beliefs probably, and some of these the people interviewed were elders even then, and some of the stories about what people were able to do spirit-wise and the consorting with spirits is really fascinating, and yeah, that's carried on like a lot of the elders. If you have a chance to speak with them and they share with you that there's definitely belief in these spirits. I've never heard the term like fairies or gnomes or anything like that used here, but they're very similar type stories, I think. But like the original stories in Britain and in Ireland and Europe, these aren't necessarily like cute, cuddly butterfly wing type beings. Like, even if they're small, they can mess you up if you make a mistake. And there's a crossover to the belief in possession and manipulation of spirits manipulating people, and animals actually being spirits in disguise is quite common, or a spirit presenting itself as a human being is a story that I've come across a couple of times as well. So it's really fascinating, the lore, and when you do have an interest in the European lore as well, to see some of those parallels, it just makes one wonder if there was something more there before they chopped down all their forests and so many bodies of water were polluted and such. And if that's the case, if we continue along our path and let's say we knock down the rest of our 700 to 1,000-year-old trees and we continue to take advantage of nature, to put it bluntly, I guess, will these types of beliefs and these type of spirits that exist as real for some people, will they disappear as well? I don't know, but there might be something there worth looking into anyways.
We only got about 45 seconds left before we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Merle from Haunted Crew of Canada and Shanon Sinn, author extraordinaire, are our guests tonight. Merle, when you hear about the stories, about these little legends, I know you focus more on paranormal, but in 30 seconds or less, do we have to take these into account as paranormal experiences?
We 100% do, because listening to Shannon talk now, in stories you've told me in the past about little people, listening to him tonight, I'm listening deeply to what he's saying, and I actually have a little people story I'm going to start at the top of the hour with that I've experienced. I do think things like that should be taken into account when you're dealing with paranormal investigations with your ghost hunting, because it could be other things.
All right, let's get you guys to hold on right there. We have Ghosts of the Great White North. Mike Morin, otherwise known as Merle, is here from Haunted Crew of Canada. Comes in once a month to talk some paranormal, as well as author Shanon Sinn, his book, The Haunting of Vancouver Island. Oh, it is good. You can find it in bookstores and online. Make sure you do. More Spaced Out Radio coming up.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thor, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/spacedoutradio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblelicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Great to have each and every one of you with us in the darkness of night. Anyways, we want to remind all of you that you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's daily updated SOR Newswire. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter during the show, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. The show's title, at Spaced Out Radio, and my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. Tonight it's Ghosts of the Great White North. We got Merle here from Haunted Crew of Canada and author Shanon Sinn. He's got a great book out that you want to check out. It is in bookstores. It's called The Haunting of Vancouver Island, Supernatural Encounters with the Other Side. Highly suggest you check it on out. Worth adding to your library. Gentlemen, welcome back. And Merle, you want to kick things off?
I do. I have a little people story. Dave, you know how I feel about telling stories that are not ghosts that involve me?
Yes, yes.
I'm kind of prudy. And back when I used to play music, I was in a band, and we were my buddy's house. He was the bass player. That's where we stayed. We slept and whatnot. He used to have weird things happen all the time around his house. I thought that it was a ghost or whatever. It's an older house. But he would always say it was little people. I'm like, what do you mean, man? What are little people? You're weird. And he would be like, no, apparently they look, I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong from people you guys have talked to. They look like leprechauns almost. They can.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, like a gnome even, but like more of a leprechaun. He used to say that he would hear them running up and down his stairs, down his hallways, knock over his bass guitars, take his money, like, off the table, like, you know, he put change on the table sometimes, and go put it in his bed, or weird things like that. And for years, a couple of years, I was like, nah, man, you're smoking something. And then all of a sudden, when I was there alone one day, when he'd gone to go pick something up, and I hear little feet going up and down the hallway, like up the stairs, down the hallway, like a couple times. I'm like, what the is that? And I go upstairs and I see coins on the floor. Now I'm like, ghosts. And then I write off little people because you know how I am. And listening to you guys talk about little people, it just clicked in me today. I'm shocked I haven't told you that story before, but.
Oh, you held out. You totally held out, Merle.
Well, it was when Shanon says how they're mischievous and they do stuff to like screw around with you, and that's exactly what was happening. Because then I was talking to my buddy about it, how I heard the footsteps, and he claimed, because he used to practice Wicca and darker stuff, and he says that he accidentally conjured them up. Can stuff like that actually happen?
Well, I mean, you could conjure up anything, could you not, Shanon? I mean, this is what Shanon was talking about earlier about tulpas and jinn.
Well, I mean, this is like where the discussion kind of like it puts me into two different minds, because there's that one part of me that's just like, nope, this is impossible. But then there's, like I mentioned, I've been reading a lot about jinn, and we're talking like, if you think of the population of India and the population of the Muslim world, this is like a prevalent belief in spirits that is pretty all encompassing, except for the West and I guess parts of Asia. And we just don't even like look at it at all. But there's the same sort of stories there of like people doing things with either like not respecting sacred areas or not respecting graveyards, or definitely abandoned ruins, tombs, or not doing proper protocol in their home. And then a whole bunch of lore around people intentionally raising spirits for use, which is kind of where eventually we get genies from in the West in our stories, like our Disney type stories where you get your 3 wishes or whatever. But originally it's just a type of spirit that's raised to perform certain deeds. And one thing I found really fascinating is in this book that I just finished reading called Legends of the Fire Spirits, Jinn and Genies from Arabia to Zanzibar. It's by Robert LeBlanche. I wrote down his name. But there's a lot of contemporary stories too that would be like the urban legends of people apparently claiming to be jinn living amongst us and coming forward and admitting that they're jinn and talking about the jinn kingdoms and stuff. It's just so fascinating to me because it's like such a parallel to a lot of our UFO type stories too. And like I said, we're just like totally oblivious to this whole type of story, but there is a lot of crossover to what would maybe be considered a demonic type lore, as well as hauntings and fairy type stories. A lot of it's very similar too.
Shannon, I have a question coming from the chat room for you. This comes from Gnome Squatch, who is asking, Shannon, what's the process of writing a book? How long does it take?
Oh, boy. My book is, it took me years and years and years, but that's because I didn't realize at first what I was doing. I just started to record things and research, and then at one point, I was a volunteer when I was quite sick. When I was still in the military, I was off of duty when I came back from overseas, and I had to volunteer somewhere. So I volunteered for the Nanaimo Museum to help with their research, and I helped them research their ghost tours. And so some of the stories started there. And I posted online a post called Haunted Locations on Vancouver Island. And for our region, it went kind of viral. And it's still a pretty popular post. And that's when I realized, I looked around there, I realized there hasn't been a book written just on Vancouver Island as its own region. And I also realized that nobody that I could find had written a book that included Indigenous stories throughout. There's books that had done like maybe a chapter or section where they kind of marginalized the Indigenous stories and put them at the end or at the beginning as like quote unquote myth or legend, but nowhere that it included it as part of the overall community. So I saw an opportunity to create something new. So I would say to the person who's commented, who's asked, that if you're interested in writing, maybe write some blog posts about different things and see what gets response from people, and also try to figure out what people are interested in but haven't written about yet. Because a lot of times what you'll see is, I've seen this a lot in different states, and on the east coast of Canada too, and of course over in England and stuff, someone will write a book and then someone else will basically write a similar book, and they're trying to do the same thing over and over again, instead of like trying to create something that's very unique. So if you're in an area that you can do that, or if you are interested in a subject and you don't see somebody else writing about it, that's what I would suggest that you do. The writing process itself, takes a lot of time. And I was very fortunate that when I was sick, the military allowed me to go to school, take some university, and I went back for creative writing because I knew that that's something I could do even if my body was failing me. And publisher, Taryn Boyd from Touchwood, came and spoke to our classroom, and I knew already I had all these stats from my site and stuff, so I was able to pitch her, and they were kind enough to accept that. So I think when it comes to ghost lore and stuff, there's also potential market for self-publishing if someone can sell themselves. Again, if there's an area that people aren't writing about or that people are interested in, they'll seek you out. That's just my opinion anyways. I just think that a lot of times in the realm of like ghosts and hauntings and stuff, a lot of people are writing the same sort of things over and over again, and that's probably not the best use of one's time.
Merle.
I agree. I think people need to keep it original and quit duplicating all the different types of books that are out there, because you can only beat a dead horse so much, right?
Absolutely.
For writing books, like as per your listener's question, I wouldn't know. I'm not an author, but if I was to write a book, I would want it to be catchy, original, and new content, which is kind of what I think people should be doing. Instead of, because I read a lot of ghost hunting books. I read a lot of paranormal research books. COVID has me doing quite a bit of that. But they're all the same, or it's all people basically doing pissing contests with how they write.
True.
And that's how I feel about that. I really want to read Shannon's book. I will. Can you get it on Amazon?
Yeah, you could get it. I've been kind of pitching, telling people to try to support their local bookstores right now. And if their local bookstore doesn't have it, most of them have their online sales available. Then also Indigo is an option, Canadian option if you're in Canada, just because I happen to know from speaking to bookstore owners and stuff that our book industry is going to be in serious trouble on the other side of this if we don't support them. So
very true. Very true. And you know what? I got to say this. I am not a fan of ebooks, okay? Because there is nothing better, at least for me, and for those of you who've maybe switched over to ebooks, go back in time to feel a book, to turn the page and the smell of the book and everything like that. To me, I know it sounds weird, but I love that feeling. I don't do ebooks. Can't stand ebooks. I want to read it on
feeling
paper.
Of victory. The victory when you're done with an actual book. Exactly. Fully agree. So totally agree with what you're saying. Joey has a question here, and Joey Bandanas, we got to know in the chat room, what color bandana are you wearing tonight for the show? Because he changes them up every single show. He is asking, and we'll start with you, Shannon. Do you find that paranormal theories appear to have borrowed from fairy folklore and superstitions?
Sometimes, but I feel like they don't borrow enough. And what I mean by that is, like you go back, especially I'd say to the 1970s when a lot of investigations and stuff started taking place. You kind of start to see these certain ideas kind of become more and more solidified that now a lot of people kind of accept as fact. When you look at, that's why I find things like reading about the jinn or fairy tales before they became kind of Disney-like so fascinating, is because that's what people thought about ghosts then. And they're really, some of these ideas have almost been completely lost. And I think it's a shame because there's some of them are so original. A perfect example that I've been actually poking around about for a while, and I want to write more about, is poltergeist. So poltergeist, of course, everybody probably knows by now, it's a German noisy ghost, but like really it's just like it's a descriptor for a type of haunting, and over time it became a specific type of ghost, like almost like a classification of creature from a Dungeons and Dragons manual. It's like it's its own thing instead of it being what it once was. And like there's so much overlap between the poltergeist type haunting and a lot of other types of haunting, but people really try to separate them and say, oh, this is a poltergeist type haunting, or this is this is where a specter or something manifests. And instead of like just trying to accept that maybe there isn't such clear divides between all these different types of hauntings, because like I think that we dismiss a lot of, like, let's say 1800s or even earlier lore because we think that people back then weren't smart or weren't or just were more maybe gullible. But in a lot of cases, that wasn't true at all. People were, going way back, at times very religious, to the point where to believe in some of these other things was sacrilegious, and then being science minded at different periods of time was like so important. If you were like not scientific minded, you were almost seen as like not a man, because we know back then, women weren't considered humans, right? Practically. So I would really like to see a resurgence of people looking at the fairy lore, the ghost lore and stuff from old texts and 1800s, going all the way back to like ancient Greece and Rome, Babylon, all these places. It's I think that there's a lot that we can learn from history, as opposed to just kind of like deciding what different, like how to classify a ghost and what a haunting is based on what everybody else is doing.
All right, we got another question coming in all the way from Sweden. EQA is asking, is there any legends in the United States about a woman in the woods with bark on her back? She lures men deep into the forest and they are never seen again. Well, in Canada, that's called my ex-mother-in-law. I can tell you that. All right, I can definitely tell you that. But I can't give out the name because you say her name 3 times and she will appear, and I just love the audience way too much for that. But, there are little legends like that across. I would suggest, with that question, when we have on David Weatherly or John Tenney or Butch Witkowski, remind me about that and we will get to that question. But are there any in Canada, Shannon, that you have heard of strange legends about women luring people into the forest and then they just disappear?
Yeah, absolutely. Vancouver Island, Zenequa. There's a huge overlap with the Sasquatch stories, as you know. A lot of the traditional First Nations stories on Vancouver Island and in the Pacific Northwest are of a female giantess, cannibal spirit, and lures people away and eats them. Sometimes a good spirit, sometimes not a good spirit, I guess, if she's eating you. I don't know about, I can't think of anything as far as bark for skin, but there's, again, with Sasquatch, there's a lot of stories about them being able to be very invisible, to blend in with nature, and not be seen quite easily. There's also stories about food being left in the forest. They say if you come across food left in the forest that you're not supposed to eat it, otherwise you'll become a part of Bookwis, I think his name is. My memory is terrible if you can't tell. if you eat the ghost food, you'll become part of the ghost entourage of him. So yeah, there's definitely the forests traditionally on Vancouver Island are definitely filled with spirits that you don't want to mess with, and you want to go into the forest with some form of protection and to be clear-minded and of clear spirit. Traditionally, people here a lot would bathe in the ocean to be cleansed, or rub themselves with different types of tree boughs. Fast would be another one. You just want to keep your mind pure. And I would harbor to guess that that's something that's quite common across North America in Indigenous story.
That's very cool. Very cool. Merle, have you ever heard stories like that?
I have not, and I was just Googling it while Shannon was talking. And no, I've heard of like the Sasquatch luring people in. You've told me that story before, but other than that, no, I haven't.
Yes. Yeah, until we got scared out of the forest. That's for sure.
What? Why would you follow a woman with bark on their back?
I don't know. But that's another story for another day. That is for sure. We've got about 2.5 minutes here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Merle from Haunted Crew of Canada and Shanon Sinn are our guests tonight on Ghosts of the Great White North. Shanon, when you look at all the legends that you have covered on Vancouver Island, are there any that stick out that may not be as popular in the folklore legend category that few people actually know about?
What do you mean by that? I'm not sure I follow the question.
Well, just, there are the folklores and the legends that are out there in every community. We've talked about them a lot tonight. There's always that one that's kind of like a hidden gem that doesn't get the press or the popularity that it probably should when people talk about these interesting creatures.
Well, I tried to include those in my book. Like I mentioned earlier, The Lady That Walks on Water was not a well-known story outside of Port Alberni. The Headless Woman of Mount Sicker is well-known story in central Vancouver Island, but wasn't well-known outside of that, like in Victoria or Up Island. In Victoria, there's a story I absolutely love of a skull-faced bishop, just because it reminds me of those old DC comics I used to read in the late 80s and stuff, like on Ghosts and House of Mystery and stuff. We've got this monk with a skull head, but these are all ones that I kind of that one was part of it's been brought up in tours, but I don't think it's ever been in books. Most of these other ones outside of Victoria have never been in any books, except for a couple of locations. I would say that there's always a story or two that I come across that I've kind of tucked aside if I do a sequel. But I think some of the most iconic stories that weren't widely known I've included in my book.
Awesome. Shanon, you hold on. Merle, you hold on. We got Merle from Haunted Crew of Canada and Shanon Sinn, author out of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, on for another half an hour as we continue with Ghosts of the Great White North in hour number 3, and then follow it up with the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio, right around the corner.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Hair slicked back and looking fine for all of you in Radio Land as we welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across the continent and on the digital side on TalkStream Live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, along with Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Xenogenesis. Xenogenesis is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night, right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rockin' Out to Bumblefoot and going to visit Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, which is updated daily. We got a lot of things going on there, so check it on out. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and my personal handle, at us at Dave Scott SOR. For the final time tonight, we introduce Merle from Ghosts of the Great White North and Haunted Crew of Canada, along with author Shanon Sinn. He's got a great book out called The Haunting of Vancouver Island, Supernatural Encounters with the Other Side, which can be found in every bookstore, along with online on Amazon, Indiegogo, and so on and so forth. Highly suggest you do it. Merle just purchased a book during the break, so make sure you guys do too. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, not a problem.
My paranormal investigator head is screaming. Shannon's mentioned a few times over the past couple hours here about that lady walking on water in Port Alberni.
Right.
Do you think that could be folklore, urban legend, or do you think that it could be a residual haunting? Because you said that there used to be a pier there. So maybe something traumatic happened to that lady and or her baby back in the day. So she's just, when she's walking on the water, in her ghost mind, she's still walking on that pier at that time period. And sometimes people may just see her at that time. Maybe it's a certain time of day when that trauma happened, so she's replaying it over and over again.
Yeah, I do explore that idea in the book. That's another one of those definitions I'm not always sure about, like the residual haunting versus the lucid type haunting, because sometimes I think there's an overlap too. But she has, for whatever reason, the story, the urban legend, just the legend itself, is that she walks on water and that she asks people if they've seen her baby. One of the most recent cases that are brought up that I talk about in the book was only a few years ago, where somebody said that they saw a woman before they realized that the place was supposed to be haunted. They were tubing down the river, and they saw a woman emerge out of the water, looking completely dry, and going onto the little kind of island in the middle of the river. And so she wasn't, in that case, obviously walking on the water. And other people claim that she's chased them up the path, which is similar to that the famous Hollywood sign ghost down in California there. So I'm not really sure, but I would say that was my first thought, is that she's still walking on that platform when she's walking on the water, that there's definitely something there. And my idea about her asking people if they've seen her baby was that might have been one of those things that was added later as people are telling the story and kind of making it more spooky, as it kind of was holistically becoming more and more formed as a complete story.
And that's how it becomes the urban legend, when people add little bits and pieces to it like that?
Well, it's like, to me, like an urban legend is when it exists amongst people telling the story back and forth, but it doesn't necessarily, like, to me, it kind of stops being just an urban legend once it hits any sort of publication or like TV show or publicized investigation or anything, because then that becomes part of the story and it kind of cements the details. But like it's still like kind of oral, it just existing in an oral sense. Like when I was able to interview people about it and talk to people, and I'm really grateful. A couple of people helped me so much with that chapter from Port Alberni, because it really just existed orally. It didn't exist anywhere else other than, I'm sure if I looked in the newspaper, it probably was mentioned at Halloween once or twice over the years, but it wasn't well documented. So that's kind of what I mean by urban legend, is it's kind of like the story of the folk, the common folk, for lack of a better term. And like I said earlier, it's like an academic might disagree with me, and I'd have to agree with what the academic said. But there are different people who are proposing more exact definitions of an urban legend. But that's just kind of the way that I understand it, and the way that I kind of view it, is that it's oral stories that are being told and that are contemporary. That's something that's happening kind of now, that's supernatural.
All right, question coming in from the chat room from Chris, who is asking, and Merle, we'll start with you on this one. Do you think some entities traveled over to a new world?
Define new world. I don't understand.
Well, that's all I could go by, man, is what is typed. Do you think that some entities traveled over to the new world or a new area, considering I'm going to assume this means that life continues elsewhere, that once we are out of our own bodies, that we go to a new world, maybe people call it Valhalla, heaven, wherever it may be?
I don't know. I when I think of travel to a new world, I think of like attachments. Can our listener?
They're on a 20-second delay, bud. There's nothing I can do.
All right. I can't answer that because I don't know the answer.
How about you, Shannon? What do you think?
The way that I understood that question is he or she meant the new world being North America, and almost like the American Gods, Neil Gaiman kind of idea that settlers brought new gods and spirits from the old world, meaning, it's pretty colonial to talk about the old world and the new world, but kind of meaning that we might have brought spirits and ideas with us. For example, like I've come across on the east coast of Canada, and I can't remember, somewhere in the Appalachians, I believe, mentions of banshees. So that's obviously Irish origins that were brought over with different family lore. So I'm thinking that maybe that's what the question is about.
All right. Let's move on here. Gentlemen, as we continue on, on Vancouver Island, there is a lot of stories about UFOs. There's a lot of stories about, alien ET contacts and so on and so forth. Do you look at this as all being tied to the strangeness of Vancouver Island, Shanon?
I do wonder, what the overlap is. With these stories, I'm naturally curious what the real answer is beyond the story. And I think it's very curious that we do have all of these types of stories and they just overlap. So what does that really mean? Is when you talk about a ghost light, for example, if it's hovering, let's say 5 feet above the earth, it's a ghost. If you see it 25 feet above the surface of the earth, then it's a UFO. And they kind of it's the story split into two types of kind of mythos, kind of like the UFO alien type beliefs or the ghost type beliefs. But maybe they're the same thing. Maybe they're related. There's been lots of discussions in different places of the overlap of fairy lore, fairy abduction especially, and alien abduction. I think those stories are very similar. And I'm not the first person to bring that up. Like I said, people have actually written papers on it and suggested that they're the same thing and the same type of, either the people back then were having those experiences and claiming that they were or labeling aliens as fairies, or that nowadays we're labeling fairies as aliens type thing, and that it's possibly the same type of experience. So when you're talking about over Vancouver Island, all these different types of lore, I'm very aware that we have everything here, like the Sasquatch, the sea serpent, which we call Cadborosaurus in Victoria area, and aliens, ghosts, First Nation spirits, beings. And there's probably, whatever the explanation is, there's probably an overlap, in my opinion, as opposed to them being completely separate type of experiences.
Merle, do you think there is a tie between all of the experiences?
Nah, I think Bigfoot's Bigfoot. I think an alien's an alien, and I think a ghost is a ghost. I don't think they're tied together. I don't.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Because it doesn't make sense to me. They say aliens are not from this planet, so they come and creep in our skies. They say ghosts, which I've experienced, are people who have passed away, belong to the land, etc. And Bigfoot, they say, lives in the forest. I don't think they intertwine. I think they're three separate things, my personal opinion.
You have experienced Bigfoot, though.
I have. I guess I've experienced the trifecta of those three things. So that I can say that I feel they don't all coexist together. I totally think they're separate. That's like the debate you have where people will say, is Bigfoot a primate or is Bigfoot interdimensional being? It's potato to some people, right?
Very true. Very true. And we all know you're a potato kind of guy. Question coming in from Human Carl. Shannon, we'll put this one to you. Do you believe, or what do you think about fairies having a hybrid breeding program? What the hell is this, Human Carl? This is what I get for not reviewing questions before I actually read them. Human breeding program for fairies? Aliens, yes, man. Aliens, yes. I'll answer that one, Human Carl. Geez, you make me laugh. Human Carl, everyone. We can't.
It's actually true. They do have
really.
Yeah, and the lore, it's there. That's why.
No way.
That's why they abduct children. Is they abduct children to breed, and that's why I'm saying there's an overlap between all of them. Like you get into the First Nations Sasquatch stories, and you can't just say it's a primate anymore. And even some of the contemporary stories, like Alert Bay, they recorded them. A whole bunch of people witnessed it in the graveyard and in the schoolyard. And there's no wildlife on the island. It's just a First Nations community mostly, and old fishing community. So there's no forest. There's no it doesn't logically fit with this idea of an elusive ape being. So some of the most famous Sasquatch images come from there, Kwakakiwak, and they're used by like on those old on the Track of Sasquatch books and stuff, like the masks and the totem poles and stuff. That's where those images come from, is Alert Bay. It's there if a person wants to look at it deeper. It's the story isn't that it's an ape. I mean, there is like Thomas Seward. I never know if I'm saying his name right. Right, he kind of brings the two worlds together in what he has proposed. But when you talk to the First Nations people there, they say that that's not the way that the stories are, and that it's kind of been made to fit the more like the subtles type approach. And there's more kind of, I guess, like in the missionary and stuff, there's more kind of the idea of more of a ape being, but like it's definitely like more of a spirit being on Vancouver Island and in the northern parts of the island. It's not just it's not in their stories. It's not just an ape.
All right. Question coming from G Girl. And by the way, Human Carl, I'm sorry for my reaction on that, because I really thought that one was way out there. That was serious peak woo right there, Human Carl. Good job. G Girl is asking, and Merle will get you to respond to this one. Do ghosts peek around the corner, or do real people from other dimensions see us as the ghosts and hide behind stuff and then peek to get a glimpse of us? Oh, that's a great question. Great question.
So like a role reversal. Is that what we're going with? Well, maybe when we go in those haunted buildings together, Dave, we startle them and they record us and see what we're going to say. I don't know. That is a good question. It's a good thinker of if there is role reversal, people are creeping on us and trying to discover us and get our reactions to things. It could be possible. You never know.
What do you think, Shannon?
I don't know. Maybe it's possible. Like I'll agree with Merle. Maybe it's possible. My experience is just like the things that I've had happen to me. It just seems like they want to be. If this isn't just projected somehow from my own thoughts or something, it seems like they just want to be acknowledged that they're there. They don't really seem like they're scared of me. Like if something gets moved to a different place in my home and it's obvious enough that I see it, then it doesn't seem like it's wondering about me, but I could be wrong.
Because if they're reacting to us when we do a paranormal investigation, they clearly see us and they clearly know what we're saying. So, yeah, I don't know.
All right. Let's move on here as we got about 4.5 minutes here left with both of you gentlemen tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got Merle from Haunted Crew of Canada and author Shanon Sinn. Gentlemen, as we move forward and we get, we're all kind of locked down with what's going on, how do we research the paranormal without being able to go outside? Merle.
You order Shannon's book on Amazon, right? Your local bookstore. You listen to podcasts like what we're doing now. You listen. You read. You watch. There's plenty of TV stuff you could watch too, but we all know TV's a grain of salt. That's what I've been doing. I'm guilty. I've gone way out away from people to try and do some investigating and thinking and whatnot, but mostly just stay home and read. I don't know because I'm working, so.
You're essential.
I'm essential.
You are totally essential. We love it. How about you, Shanon? What do you think? How are you keeping up to date on everything?
I'm the same. I tend to read a lot. I'm always looking for things outside of, I guess, off the beaten path a bit. Just like papers or books written by people that are more, I guess, academic sometimes, or from other cultures, or from, like I mentioned before, long ago in history and stuff. I'm just curious about the stories and where they came from and how they eventually evolved to modern times, especially like our concepts of, because like I mentioned, I feel like we kind of have solidified concepts of ghosts, and maybe to understand these types of encounters better, we need to be more fluid in our thoughts about them. So yeah, highly recommend that book I mentioned on Jinn and Genies. There's another book called Phantom Past Indigenous Presence that's all about indigenous ghosts, more academic. Like,
oh, strange. We just had Skype decide that it wanted to hang up on us. Oh, isn't that nice? Yeah, Skype logged me out. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, isn't that nice? So let me just log back in here and get these gentlemen. Oh, for God's sakes. Thanks, Bill Gates. Next, you want me to get some sort of, vaccination on something. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. I am sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Give me 2 seconds here. Oh, man. Let's join this conversation right here. Sorry about that, gentlemen. We literally, Skype decided to log me out.
Oh.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? We're just about to try and wrap things up here. And, Skype decides to just log me out and wants me to re-log in. Like, it can't figure out that we're actually on the line. I'm sure it has something to do with vaccinations. They want me to get a vaccination for Skype. That's what they want, as I wear the tinfoil. But do me a favor, Shanon. Tell everybody, we got about 30 seconds left. Tell everybody where they could find your book.
The Haunting of Vancouver Island can be found anywhere that books are sold. It's carried physically in Vancouver Island bookstores. Probably have to order it through other bookstores. If you do use an e-reader, it is available Kindle, and in Canada, Kobe, I think it's called. Like I said, my memory's terrible, but
that's okay.
Yeah, it's available most places. I think it's our 5th print that we just did, and I imagine that we're going to run out pretty soon. And I don't really know how quick the new prints will come. So if there are copies available where you purchase your book, you might want to jump on them if you're okay reading digital format.
Perfect. Thank you, my friend. I got to cut it off there because we got to run. The news and the thought of the day are next on Spaced Out Radio.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
At SpacedOutRadio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at SpacedOutRadio.com today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there. You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans! It's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, hanging out with all of you tonight. What a pleasure it's been. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rocking Out to Bumblefoot. And don't forget to read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and much more. And follow us on Twitter, will you? #SpacedOutRadio for all the chat. You can follow us at Dave Scott SOR. That's my personal handle. Or for the show at Spaced Out Radio. Speaking of the news, it's that time once again. Let's get it wound up. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire, the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and the controversial. Yes. There is increasing confidence that COVID-19 likely originated in a Wuhan laboratory, and not as a bioweapon, but as a part of China's effort to demonstrate that its efforts to identify and combat viruses are equal to or greater than the capabilities of the United States. Multiple sources have told news outlets this, as they have been briefed. Yeah. This may be the costliest government cover-up of all time, one of the sources said. The sources who told Fox, because I do have to say who it comes from Fox News. The sources told Fox believe the initial transmission of the virus was bat to human, and that patient zero worked at the laboratory, then went into the population in Wuhan. The increasing confidence comes from classified and open source documents and evidence. Yes, so when talking about this story, documents detail early efforts by doctors at the lab and early efforts at containment. The Wuhan wet market, initially identified as a possible point of origin, never sold bats, and the sources say that blaming the wet market was an effort by China to deflect the blame from the laboratory, along with the country's propaganda efforts targeting the U.S. and Italy. You know, all I got to say about this is propaganda, communist country, do they go well together? Do we think we're going to get the truth? Highly, highly doubt it. Disturbing video has emerged of a sword-wielding assailant chopping off the hand of a police officer in India at a roadblock during the COVID-19 pandemic. The video shows a white pickup truck barreling through a police barricade at a vegetable market in Punjab. This happened Sunday morning before cops carrying large sticks surrounded the vehicle and then began whacking it. A man leapt out of the vehicle, swung a sword, severing the right hand of Harjeet Singh, an assistant sub-inspector on the force. There was a heated argument after the police asked him to furnish the curfew passes, but they continued crashing the vehicles on the barricade, said Senior Superintendent Mandeep Singh Sidhu. The injured officer can be seen in the video with one hand missing. Other officers are later seen showing holding the amputated hand. Yeah, why? We're going to put this on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. Never mind putting it, in a plastic bag or some sort of bag to get the gentleman to the hospital where maybe they could reattach it. Oh, no. We got to show it off first. 2 other police officers were treated for minor injuries as well. Singh underwent hours-long surgery for the amputation. About 20 men have been detained by police in connection to the attack. As of Wednesday, India has more than 11,900 confirmed COVID cases and more than 400 deaths. Let's move on here. Oh, this is such a beautiful story. You might need a tissue for this one. Hey, speaking of which, a quick-thinking Helsinki bakery has saved itself from financial ruin. Yeah, because they have created a cake that looks like a toilet roll. Oh, the mistakes that may happen in someone's houses with this. The dismayed staff at the bakery found all their orders canceled last month at the same time as panicked consumers began to hoard toilet paper. This sparked the idea of a toilet roll cake made of oat batter, passion fruit mousse, and covered with white fondant. Yeah, the first 5 cakes sold within an hour, and then it became a social media hit. Of course it did. The bakery now has hundreds of orders, and its owner, Sanna Lampinen, has even been able to hire 2 extra people to her 9-member team. For us, it's a game changer. If we weren't on the radio, I could make some fun with this one. Yeah, for us, it's a game changer, and I am relieved. Yeah, go figure. Relieved, toilet paper. Yeah, because I know all of my employees are safe for months now. Yeah, good for her. Good for her. This toilet paper looks good enough to eat, actually. It's actually kind of cool. Very kind of cool. No word what happens when you get to the center and the cardboard paper in between. Yeah, I don't know if I believe this story or not coming out of the BBC, but zoos that should have been crowded in Easter sunny holidays are now hard up and asking for donations because of the virus. A zoo director in northern Germany has even admitted that some animals might soon have to be fed to others if the zoo is to survive. We've listed the animals we'll have to slaughter first, Neumünster Zoo's Verena Kaspari has said. Berlin Zoo has infant panda twins, but their fans can only watch them online. The zoo's spokesperson, Feline Hochmeister, says the panda twins are adorably sweet. Not sure what that has to do with feeding animals to them. Constantly, we're thinking the visitors should be watching them live. We don't want the little pandas to be grown up by the time we finally reopen. Ms. Kaspari at Neumünster Zoo said killing some animals so that others could live would be a last resort and unpleasant, but even that would not solve the financial problem. The seals and penguins needed big quantities of fresh fish daily. If it comes to it, I'll have to euthanize animals rather than let them starve, she said. At worst, we would have to feed some of the animals to others. Ms. Kaspari's zoo belongs to an association which is not covered by the State Emergency Fund for Small Businesses. She estimates the zoo's loss of income this spring will be about £170,000. Besides direct appeals for public donations, Germany's zoos are jointly requesting government aid worth 100 million euros. Germany's National Zoo Association argues that zoos, unlike many other businesses, cannot go into hibernation and run down costs. Animals still have to be fed daily and looked after, while a tropical enclosure has to be heated above 20 degrees Celsius. I got a good idea. Why don't we just move them into different zoos and close down some of these? And if the animals are able to be rehabilitated, put them back in a sanctuary or back into the wild where they belong. Yeah. How about that? Oh, continuing here. Apparently some zookeepers have also warned that this crisis has an emotional cost for certain animals because they miss the attention they would get from the public. The apes especially love to watch people, says Mick Hockmeister at the Berlin Zoo. She said seals and parrots were also fascinated by their visitors, and for them now it's pretty boring. Last week, Moscow Zoo also said its 2 giant pandas were missing something now. They've started to much more actively approach every single person who walks past their enclosure. Got a feel for the animals. Still would rather see them in the wild, but that's just me. Who am I? Who am I? I'm just some tinfoil guy sitting on the other end of a microphone. A Florida man was arrested on charges of making a written threat to commit a mass shooting at a Publix grocery store because not enough people were wearing masks during the coronavirus pandemic. Robert Kovner, 62 years old, of Sebring, about 85 miles south of Orlando, was arrested and booked for the threat he wrote in a Facebook post because that's a smart place to do it, on social media, according to Highlands County Sheriff's Office. The writer was upset that not enough people, in his opinion, are wearing masks when they are out and about. The sheriff's statement said there have been 21,435 cases of coronavirus in Florida, 591 deaths as well. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention has recommended people wear cloth masks to cover their nose and mouth in public to help slow the spread of the disease caused by the coronavirus. Yeah, we realize these are stressful times, but there is no excuse to make threats of a mass shooting, the police said. Go figure. When you have to make a statement that this is not a good idea, it's not a good idea to be doing it. Can we just agree on that? Anyways, he's being held in county jail on a $6,000 bond, and he's still behind bars right now, probably where he deserves to be. Meanwhile, a Maryland police department shared a cryptic warning to a local resident who apparently has a habit of checking their mail without pants on during the outbreak lockdown. The Taneytown Police Department posted a reminder to its Facebook page that appears to be specifically aimed at an unnamed resident. The post serves as a reminder that despite the COVID-19 pandemic, some dress code rules remain in effect. Please remember to put your pants on before leaving the house to check your mailbox. You know who you are. This is your final warning, the post states. Who does this? Seriously. The last thing I'm doing is going outside in my knickers, all right, and showing off some high thigh just to see if the hydro bill has made it over. Yes, I get so rambunctious about my bill for my cell phone that I forget to put clothes on at the mailbox. All right? I don't know. Maybe it's one of them crown princes that sends you that mail that goes to your junk mail email saying, go check your mail. I need your address because I'm sending you $21 million. I don't know. Does that do it? Put some clothes on. How about a robe? Heck, even a towel. Because you should never forget to bring a towel. A Costco worker in Houston is being praised online for tracking down a customer who left nearly $200 in cash behind at the store. Costco said in a post on their Instagram that the worker, named Christina, noticed a shopper left behind his change, which totaled $194 after checking out at the store near the Galleria. Christina was able to look up the shopper's information through his store membership and called the man named John at home. She said John and his wife Barbara initially thought the call was a scam, but they were grateful when they arrived at the store and she handed over the cash. He didn't realize that he had forgotten the money, Barbara said. In these stressful times, we have been so very impressed with Christina and all the employees at this Costco for the excellent staff at the pharmacy, to the greeters, cashiers, and stockers, Barbara said. Most of the pharmacy employees and the greeters know us by name. Now we are delighted to add Christina to our friends list. So you know what they do? You know what Costco does on this? I mean, this is the fundamentally wrong. I mean, not in real life, but in today's age. Costco posts a picture of employee Christina hugging the gentleman who left the money behind. They're giving the old side hug. But there is absolutely no social distancing here whatsoever. Shame on Costco. Where is your social distancing? Good deed, yes, but I will be the jerk who points out the photo is in bad shape right now. Bad context. Bad context. And I'm joking. Do not take me seriously. A Florida house that turned heads and annoyed neighbors with its vibrant, erratic paint job is getting a makeover thanks to its new owner. The home in the Il Regalo Circle community of Naples raised controversy in January when neighbors complained about the neon-colored paint job, which they said was done erratically and caused paint splatter on the home's lawn and surrounding trees. Heaven forbid. The era of the cartoon-colored house came to a close this past Monday when workers set about power washing the colors off in preparation for a new paint job. Court documents state the home was purchased in March for less than its $500,000 market value. Somebody got a good deal so they could afford the paint job. Let's get to the thought of the day, shall we? Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we live. Well, I can't even speak because Nathan on Twitter got me all laughing. Today's Thought of the Dave, we do it every night, where basically we post a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. Describe to me the best folklore story from your town or community. All right. So, anyways, Nathan goes and puts, when I was reading the news about, going to get your mail naked, he says, I got my fishnet and thong ready to go. Check the mail tomorrow. Got to share this post. Absolutely you do, Nathan. Absolutely. Don't forget to put your hair in one of those shower caps because that'll look good as well. You might as well do it up. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it all up. All right. Thought of the day. Folklore legends. Around here at the museum where I do our ghost tour when we are actually up and running, we have a legend of a lady named Agnes McVie. Now, back in the 1800s, around 1852 to 62, she and her trolley of men, her stable of men who took care of the post house that she ran, allegedly killed over 60 men, robbing them of their gold that they had got from up north in the Klondike during the gold rush. And apparently she still haunts the building today. I don't believe it. I don't believe the story. Not a lot of evidence outside of legends. Merle believes it, though. Merle believes it. He thinks there's something to it. And we do know that Agnes McVie existed. However, we cannot prove that she was in this area. So that is the legend and folklore of my town. Let's see what else is out there. Marty, in Vegas, it is said that the ghosts of people like Bugsy Siegel, it is said the ghosts of people like Bugsy Siegel they haunt the rose garden he planted at the Flamingo Hotel when he built it. Legend says his unique fertilizer got roses to bloom in the desert, and that at night you could hear the voices whisper, "Smell those roses, Bugsy." Oh, is there not anything creepy about that story? This is why one day I want to live in Nevada, because of stories like this. All right. Thank you for sharing. Goddess Michelle. There is a fairy tree. All children that have played near it have said to see fairies. I know I did, as did my children and their friends. See, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. See, it's amazing how many communities have these fairy legends out there. Seen by people over the years in the same spots. Kim, Billy the Kid. What about him, Kim? I guess your town is the legend of Billy the Kid. Did he really get shot? Don't you miss the Young Guns series? Remember? When Young Guns wasn't known as a UFO term for the new breed of investigator, but was actually, Lou Diamond Phillips Emilio Estevez, and all of them. How about that? Those were great movies. Great movies. Loved them. Lone Wolf. Around the northern part of Michigan's Lower Peninsula, there are stories of trolls lurking in the numerous unexplored sinkholes that are in the area. Not the cute and cuddly spiky hair variety, but the grotesque, malevolent kind straight out of Norse legends. Oh, that's fantastic. You know, we're going to ask Tenney. Somebody remind me. We'll ask John Tenney about those, because that would be really cool. Really cool. William. Ben Franklin's ghost in Christchurch Cemetery. The Bonaparte House, home to Joseph Bonaparte, his ghost is there. The Great Purple Blob story and the Lightness, Black Van of Kelly Drive. I love my Philadelphia, William says. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds real good. All right. We should get somebody on talking about the ghosts of Philadelphia. That's got to be a pretty haunted city. Totally. Even Rocky's probably there, even though he's not dead yet. But the spirit of Rocky is there. Karen Smurl, she had some good hauntings in her life. I am the folklore story, Dave. Yes, you are, Karen. Yes, you are. Now, would you like to talk to our manager? Matt, we have this hold on. What are you talking about here, cable guy Matt? We have this crazy old guy that lives at the top of a mountain, broadcast studio. He has a radio show from that cabin every single night. What are you talking about? Is that a shot at me? Is that a shot at me, cable guy Matt? It might be. It might very well be. Christy, supposedly Gilles Corey haunts our Howard Street Cemetery, primarily when there is impending danger or disaster within the city, such as the 1914 Great Fire, which is when he was last seen. What city am I from? I don't know. You're going to make me look it up. French name, though. French name. Howard Street Cemetery? I can't think of it off the top of my head. And Tim gets the final word. We have a cemetery not too far from town, down a mile on a dark tree-lined lane. The branches hang over. It's creepier graves from the 1800s till the early 1900s. Cemetery contains Elizabeth's grave, a young woman who died under mysterious circumstances before her wedding. Oh, wow. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody taking in the fun at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone participating in our chat rooms tonight, including Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, and the Snarkers and Snarkettes on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your night with us, because together, my friends, we own the night, Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a wonderful night, everybody. The good news is we get to do it all again tomorrow. Come along for the ride, shall we? There's always room on the Woo train for you. Good night.